Let us begin with contextual analysis of prescribed texts. This is a very important topic in literature in English. It appears in your exams every single year. By the end of this lesson, you will understand what contextual analysis means, the types of context, how to analyze the historical, social, and political context of literary works, using sample analyses, and how to answer exam questions. Take your notes. Let us go. First, what is contextual analysis? Contextual analysis is the study of a literary work in relation to the circumstances surrounding its creation. No work is created in a vacuum. Every work is influenced by its time, its place, and its society. To fully understand a work, you must understand its context. Contextual analysis examines the historical, social, and political factors that shaped the work. It also examines how the work responds to those factors. Now let me explain the types of context. The first type is historical context. This includes the events, trends, and developments of the time period when the work was written. Historical context helps explain why the work focuses on certain themes. For example, a novel written during a war might focus on violence and loss. A poem written during a period of social change might focus on identity and transformation. To analyze historical context, ask yourself, when was this work written? What was happening in the world at that time? What major events might have influenced the author? The second type is social context. This includes the social structures, customs, values, and beliefs of the society in which the work was written. Social context helps explain the behavior of characters and the norms of the fictional world. For example, a novel set in a patriarchal society might show women being treated as inferior. A novel set in a class-divided society might show tension between rich and poor. To analyze social context, ask yourself, what were the social norms of the time? How were different groups treated? What were the dominant values and beliefs? The third type is political context. This includes the political systems, ideologies, conflicts, and power structures of the time. Political context helps explain why the work takes a certain stance. For example, a play written under a dictatorship might use allegory to criticize the regime. A novel written during a struggle for independence might celebrate nationalism. To analyze political context, ask yourself, who held power? What were the political conflicts? Was the author supporting or challenging the political system? Now let me analyze the historical context of Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Things Fall Apart was published in 1958. Nigeria was still a British colony. It became independent in 1960. The novel is set in the late 19th century, during the early years of colonial rule. Achebe wrote the novel to challenge European representations of Africa. European colonial writers had portrayed Africans as primitive and savage. Achebe showed that Igbo society had a rich culture, complex laws, and sophisticated religion. The historical context of colonialism is essential to understanding the novel. The novel is a response to colonial narratives. It is an act of reclamation. Achebe wanted to tell the African story from an African perspective. The historical context also explains the novel's tragic ending. The British colonizers destroyed Igbo society. Okonkwo cannot adapt. He kills himself. The novel does not celebrate the destruction. It mourns it. Achebe shows the human cost of colonialism. He does not simply blame the British. He also criticizes aspects of Igbo culture, such as the treatment of twins and the killing of Ikemefuna, but the historical context of colonialism is central. Now let me analyze the social context of Wole Soyinka's The Lion and the Jewel. The Lion and the Jewel was written in 1959, just before Nigerian independence. The play is set in a Yoruba village. The social context includes the traditional Yoruba social structure. The Baal, or village chief, has authority. The bride price is an important custom. Women are expected to marry and bear children. The social context also includes the arrival of Western education and values. Lakunle represents the educated young man who rejects traditional customs. He refuses to pay the bride price. He speaks English. He wants to modernize the village. The social conflict between tradition and modernity is central to the play. The social context also includes the role of women. Sidi is the village beauty. Her value is tied to her beauty and her virginity. Sadiku is the older wife. She is loyal to her husband. The play shows the limited options for women, but it also shows women exercising agency. Sidi chooses Baroka. She is not forced. Sadiku carries out Baroka's plan. She is not passive. The social context of Yoruba society is essential to understanding the play's themes. Now let me analyze the political context of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sunday. Half of a Yellow Sun was published in 2006. It is set during the Nigerian Civil War, also known as the Biafran War, from 1967 to 1970. The political context is the war itself. The Igbo people of eastern Nigeria declared independence as the Republic of Biafra. Nigeria went to war to keep the country together. The war was brutal. Millions of people died from fighting, starvation, and disease. The novel is a response to the war. It humanizes the suffering. It shows the impact of the war on ordinary people. The political context also includes the marginalization of the Igbo people. Before the war, Igbo people were killed in pogroms in the north. Many fled to the east. The novel shows the fear and trauma of this experience. The political context also includes the role of the British. The British supported Nigeria. They supplied weapons. They did not intervene to stop the starvation. The novel is critical of British complicity. The political context is essential to understanding the novel's themes of violence, survival, and memory. Now let me analyze the historical context of Wole Soyinka's Death and the King's Horseman. Death and the King's Horseman was written in 1975. It is based on an actual event that occurred in Oyo, Nigeria, in 1946. The British district officer prevented the ritual suicide of the King's Horseman. 2 men died. The historical context of colonialism is essential. The British did not understand Yoruba culture. They saw the ritual as barbaric. They intervened. They caused a greater tragedy. The play is a critic of colonial arrogance, but it is also a metaphysical drama. It is not simply a historical reenactment. Soyinka uses the historical event to explore deeper questions about duty, death, and the cosmic order. Now let me explain how to answer exam questions on contextual analysis. A common exam question asks you to discuss the historical context of Things Fall Apart. Here is a sample answer. Things Fall Apart was published in 1958, just before Nigerian independence. The historical context of colonialism is central to the novel. Achebe wrote the novel to challenge European representations of Africa. European colonial writers had portrayed Africans as primitive and savage. Achebe showed that Igbo society had a rich culture, complex laws, and sophisticated religion. The novel also shows the human cost of colonialism. The British destroyed Igbo society. Okonkwo cannot adapt. He kills himself. Achebe mourns the loss. He does not simply blame the British. He also criticizes aspects of Igbo culture. But the historical context of colonialism is essential to understanding the novel. Another exam question asks you to analyze the social context of The Lion and the Jewel. Here is your answer. The Lion and the Jewel was written in 1959. The social context includes traditional Yoruba society and the arrival of Western education. The Baal has authority. The bride price is an important custom. Women are expected to marry and bear children. Lakunle represents the educated young man who rejects traditional customs. He refuses to pay the bride price. He speaks English. He wants to modernize the village. The social conflict between tradition and modernity is central to the play. Sidi chooses Baroka. The play does not simply praise tradition or modernity. It shows the complexity of the social context. Another exam question asks you to discuss the political context of Half of a Yellow Sunday. Here is your answer. Half of a Yellow Sun is set during the Nigerian Civil War, from 1967 to 1970. The political context is the war itself. The Igbo people declared independence as Biafra. Nigeria went to war to keep the country together. The war was brutal. Millions died. The novel humanizes the suffering. It shows the impact of the war on ordinary people. The political context also includes the marginalization of the Igbo people. Before the war, Igbo people were killed in pogroms in the north. The novel shows the fear and trauma of this experience. The political context is essential to understanding the novel's themes of violence, survival, and memory. Another exam question asks you to explain the difference between historical, social, and political context. Here is your answer. Historical context refers to the events and developments of the time period. For example, the Nigerian Civil War is historical context for Half of a Yellow Sunday. Social context refers to the customs, values, and social structures of the society. For example, the bride price custom is social context for The Lion and the Jewel. Political context refers to the power structures and political conflicts of the time. For example, colonialism is political context for Things Fall Apart. All three types of context are important for understanding literature. Here is what you need to take away. Contextual analysis examines the historical, social, and political circumstances surrounding a literary work. Historical context includes events and developments. Social context includes customs and values. Political context includes power structures and conflicts. Things Fall Apart is shaped by the historical context of colonialism. The Lion and the Jewel is shaped by the social context of Yoruba society and Western education. Half of a Yellow Sun is shaped by the political context of the Nigerian Civil War. Death and the King's Horseman is shaped by the historical context of colonial intervention. Understanding context is essential for deeper literary analysis. Practice these concepts. When you have them down, move to topic 8.